So Guy, you mentioned the issue with finding new staff and employing new people. Is that a challenge for you, Elliot, or have you, I'm guessing because you're so famous, everyone's queuing up at your door to come and work for you?
No, that we have, it takes 4 employees to run what we have, and we're usually very fortunate to get exceptional young people that we can hire. We do not do what a lot of small farmers do and take apprentices and exploit them. The trouble with that is it's a Ponzi scheme, and when they start their own farm, they have to find people that they can exploit. But we do get some wonderful volunteers from all over the world. And the number of eager, hard-working, absolutely delightful young people that we have seen from all of the EU countries, from South America, down from Canada, has been just exciting. I think the future of farming, or the future of the passion to grow exceptional food, is in safe hands.
And what do you look for in a new employee? You know, you wanting experience? You wanting just to see the passion in their eyes? What is it that kind of makes you give someone a job?
Yeah, I've been doing this long enough. I just watch them work, and I'll tell you a great story. You never want to take an employee that your cousin recommends to you because your cousin goes to church with her mother and her mother wants her to work on a farm. But we did that once. And I forget what this young woman's name was, but Courtney. Oh God. And the crew would be out harvesting spinach, and I had to walk by like this because Courtney was out there, and she would be picking it leaf by leaf, but she would have put her bucket over here. At this point, so finally Barbara said, you can't let her leave thinking she's been doing farm work. So I screwed up my courage, and I went over and I knelt down next to her and I told her stories about how back in the Second World War there weren't enough people around to harvest, and all these wonderful work was done on motion study, and they figured out it took 40% of your time to move your hand from the leaf you just picked to the bucket. And I said, therefore, if you get 4 or 5 leaves in your hand, and I gave her this whole talk, and I paused, and she looked up at me, and she said, but I'm in no hurry.
Actually, one of the challenges we do have an awful lot of people come to the Soil Association wanting to be growers. And there's a farmer down in Gloucestershire called Hilary who works at the organic farm shop near Cirencester. And she insists that people come and do a month with her.
Yeah.
She pay them, but she insists that they do a month before she employs them. And there are an awful lot of people who have this lovely image of what it's like to grow vegetables, and it's hard, and a lot of people think they want to do it until they're actually out there doing it.
Yeah, at a certain stage, our accountant started getting angry with our farm manager because he kept on growing these artichokes and they always lost money, and so the farm manager said, I'm not going to grow them anymore. And I said, well, sod you, John, I'll grow them. And what's more, I'll grow them with other people who love growing vegetables as well. There's people with passion, actually. And I sent out an email, and I got about, I don't know, it must have had about 50 of them, actually, and I called them the artichokies. And we went up to the field, and we took the suckers off the old plants, and we planted them out, and then we weeded them. And it got to the day, I think, it was quite frustrating. And I would cook lunch for them, and I drove my old bus up there and cooked them lunch. And I think it was when we were weeding them and a thunderstorm came along and it was pouring with rain, and they were pulling up docks and throwing them in wheelbarrows. And there were a whole load of them down the bottom of the field. The rows are about 200 metres long, 1,000 artichokes a row or something. And there were a few people who just barely got out from underneath the hedge. And I was halfway up the field with this bloke, Derek Meacher, who was a French lecturer at Exeter University, but was a real hard worker. And after a while, he spluttered at me. He said, Guy, they're all dilettantes. They're dilettantes. They're bloody useless. I can't take it anymore. And they were all bloody useless. Half of them were down the bottom, and they'd hardly done anything. And everyone else had gone up and done a row and come back. And yet they still wanted to be fed lunch. And I have to say that was about 10 years ago, and I think I'd rather pay people. So we don't do any of those schemes anymore. It is, anyway, the kind of romance of being on the farm and the reality of it are a little bit different, especially when the rain starts running down your neck.